Thank you, Pastor Manuel. Thank y'all. We just prayed, so y'all may be seated in the house of the Lord today. Thank you. Y'all, this is my beautiful wife, my helper. All righty. Just thinking back, reflecting, it's good to look back and just kind of see where you've come, just to remember what God's done in your life, right? We were looking back, it was probably like a couple months ago, at what God's done for us. And if I look back into before I was saved, when me and Aaron were first together, she was a preacher's kid, I was the kind of rebellious boy in school. It was like, at some point in time from when we met to when we got married, she was like, I kind of always wanted this little family where you were, maybe even like a youth leader or a teacher or something. And me living for the world, I'm like, nah, I had alcohol in my fridge. There's TV shows and movies. You guys remember DVDs? We had a lot of those rowdy DVDs in the house. And I was like, I can't be having youth kids come over to teach me, to learn from me. I was like, I don't want nothing to do with that. Well, I had got saved. And next thing you know, there we were teaching youth. No more alcohol in the house. God had convicted me of that, and I had to get rid of that. And it was only maybe 6-8 weeks ago we were talking, and the boys asked me something about preaching, and I was like, nah, bud, if you look at a football team, you've got a quarterback, everybody's got their spots, right? I said, we can't all be quarterbacks, and we're not built for it. I was like, I preach with my life, the way that I live. And then Pastor Manuel was like, hey, you want to preach? I was pretty inclined to say no. I ain't going to lie. But through what I've learned, walking in obedience, there's blessings in obedience. I've been blessed in taking the time to study, dig even deeper into the Word than I ever have, just rereading things, just kind of opening my heart and my mind to the Holy Spirit. And He's given me some stuff to go over with y'all. Pastor Gilbert last week was pretty deep in my notes. He just about stole my whole sermon. So we had to revamp it. He does that. And then Pastor this morning, we're learning a little bit of Spanish. We're kind of getting it figured out. But he was digging in my notes too. I said, whoa, Pastor, whoa. Don't tell my whole sermon. So just a little preface. But if y'all will, we're going to flip to Deuteronomy 8. The scriptures are going to be 10 through 11. And then we're going to look at 15 through 19. This is the New Living Translation. Just a little preface. There's the Israelites. They've been wandering in the desert for, 40 years. And they're fixing to finally go into their promised land, right? So that's where they're at right now. So Deuteronomy 8, verse 10. He says, when you have eaten your fill, be sure to praise the Lord your God for the good land He's given you. But that is the time to be careful. Beware that in your plenty that you do not forget the Lord your God and disobey His commands, regulations, and decrees that I'm giving you today. We'll skip down to verse 15 through 19 now. And it says, do not forget that He led you through the great and terrifying wilderness with its poisonous snakes and scorpions, where it was so hot and dry. He gave you water from the rock. He fed you with manna in the wilderness, a food unknown to your ancestors. He did this to humble you and to test you for your own good. It doesn't ever feel like you're being tested for your own good. It's painful. He did all this so you would never say to yourself, I have achieved this wealth with my own strength and energy. It says, remember the Lord your God. He is the one who gives you power to be successful in order to fulfill the covenant that He confirmed to your ancestors with an oath. But I assure you of this, if you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods, worshiping and bowing down to them, you will certainly be destroyed. So they're just coming out of the wilderness, taking heed of this warning. And we'll get back to that. Y'all will see how this kind of plays in as I go through the story here. But Look at that right there. Can y'all see? I don't know. I know there's a lot of background here, but this is a vessel, and it's full of some nasty, nasty stuff. Y'all should see the look on Pastor's face. He's kind of nervous for me right now. I don't want to drop this and make a mess. But the vessel, honestly, it represents pride. And that's what they were warning about, the Israelites about, in the word we just read. He was warning them about their pride. Because look at that. How ugly is that? If you're God and you're looking at this vessel being his people, do you want them full of that? No. No, they need to be full of the water, his water of life that comes from him. So, we're going to do a little thing here. I'm going to take the lid off. Will you grab the lid off of that one there, Pastor? Now I got to be real careful because this vessel is open to receive. We're going to leave that there for a little while. Maybe I'll put a little more in there. So there's things in life that don't mix. Y'all could probably think of them just off your head. This is actually oil, and water and oil do not mix. It represents pride and gratitude. Light and dark do not mix either. Love and hate do not mix. They oppose each other, right? Pride and gratitude do the exact same thing. They do the exact same thing. And this is lessons I've learned through my life. But we'll step back. So Aaron and I, we lived in North Carolina for about 6 years. I was working shift work. Who here has done that shift work, the 12 hours? I know my brother Rob knows. Yeah, a couple of y'all know how it is. So if, it's 12 hours, if things don't go well, it's 14 hours, something like that. But I have been doing that for quite a while. And I was working Christmas, holidays, and just missing out on so much of life, right? I remember one of those Christmases, everybody came to the house, and they're all eating and having a good time, and guess who had to go to work on the night shift? Yep, see y'all. And that was when I worked the same Thanksgiving also. But so I'm praying to God. I'm like, all right, God, I see your provision. This is beautiful. But this is kind of, I'm tired, So I'm like, is God, is there change in my future? Along with praying for that, we were praying for many things. We were praying for a house because we were living in a neighborhood where if I stretched out my arms, I could touch my neighbor's house and my house. Nothing wrong with it, but we were looking for more land, more property. And so we've been praying for that for a couple years. It didn't come to pass. Okay, that's all right. We're still going to pray for it, right? And, one of those years we applied for the house, didn't get it. Well, I went and applied for a truck, got a brand new truck. I'm like, all right, sweet, consolation prize. This was a brand new truck. That was the newest, fanciest, shiniest thing I ever had. And I know y'all remember me talking about trucks last time. I had this fascination. But, so it was a brand new truck. It was a Chevy 1500. And shortly after that, it was like the next year, God blessed us with a house, with a property. It had an acre. It was out there in the woods a little bit. We had cows for neighbors. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. So he finally blesses us with this house. Things are going really well, but I'm still like, all right, God, I still got this life where I'm having to work all these hours. I'm missing out on all this stuff. I couldn't coach a team if I wanted to. And so I'm still praying for this. While all this was going on, while we still had the old house before we got the new one, Erin, y'all know that she had a salon business, right? Or a successful business as a salon. She's doing her thing, working in that business. We're blessed financially. Everything's going really well. We got this new house, and I'm praying, and And God's given me the peace to go ahead and disconnect from that workplace, that thing that had been providing for us for 5 years. And I'm like, all right, God, if it's all right with you, I'm going to head out. We're going to see what else we got up on the horizon. Aaron was working. I quit the job. And God kind of impressed on me, like, look, you've been doing this type of thing for so long. If you're looking for a business, go do that as a business for yourself. So I started a grading and excavation business. And that was probably about, we bought the house, fixed it up for a couple months, and maybe like June, I start this business. Erin already has her business. She's kind of nervous about me starting this business, but I start one, and it's wonderful. I'm getting jobs. God's provisions coming in, and I'm busy, right? So we got the house, got the truck. She got a business. I've got a business now. And nothing had changed with her. She was still stewarding, doing her thing with her business. But for me, my life flipped upside down. I went from getting paycheck to paycheck. I know how to tie that to now I have a business where there's revenue coming in. It's money coming in, money going out, right? How do I tie that? I didn't know. So yeah, I didn't know how to steward a business. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the mentor to help me know how to steward this business. So all the while, summer's going really well. Fall comes around, and you know how it is during the fall times. People don't want to put money into the housing stuff, into the other, little things that aren't 100% necessary. Work slows down, and it's like November, and there's no calls coming in. And next thing I know, I'm on the couch. I'm on the phone. I'm making all these just random phone calls. Hey, do you guys need help or whatever? And nothing. December rolls around, and I'm like, I'm all out of money. She didn't know that because I have my own separate little business account. So I'm like, hey, babe, we need to go for a drive real quick without the boys here. And I break the news to her. Hey, guess what? I have $0 in the account now. We still got all these bills we got to pay. I don't know how it's supposed to work, but I'm thinking we're going to pick back up next year. So she was not thrilled that I had kept that from her, but she had to know. So we end up borrowing a little bit of money and getting by. The new year comes rolling around, and lo and behold, work starts picking back up. It's this feast and famine cycle. And with me not knowing how to steward a business, which God's word has something to say about that. My people perish for lack of knowledge, right? I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have the leader to help me understand how to apply the biblical knowledge to my daily life. But my people perish for lack of knowledge. That's Hosea 4:6. So her business, Aaron's business, kept us rolling for several months. I'm back into the new year, picking work up again, and this time it's even bigger. So let me put this in perspective for y'all. So have you ever been to Walmart and you go and you see like a chair? You want to buy that new chair, that little collapsible chair? Well, you look at a child's one and that thing's rated at like 100 pounds. If I'm 200 pounds and I sit in it, what's going to happen? It might hold for a minute, but if I plop down too hard, or eventually I'm going to break that thing, right? So this truck that I had, being a half ton, that's how y'all could relate, being a half ton, it was rated at like 9,000 pounds. I'm packing like 18,000 pounds behind this thing, and I know God didn't give me this beautiful truck so that I could destroy it, right? So I'm like, awesome. God, I guess I need a bigger truck, a better truck, a heavier truck so I could do all this work that you're blessing me with. And so I'm like, okay, God, I don't know how you're going to do it because I'm having a hard time with the bills right now, but this new truck is going to support all this new business. I'm like, I made it up in my mind. I saw the path that I thought God was taking us. But then, and I'm good with it because it makes sense to me. It makes sense, right? So, y'all remember Erin talking up here, and she was talking about giving up her business. Summertime rolls around. I'm doing really well. My mind frame is I need a bigger truck. And she goes, hey, I got this crazy idea, not the crazy idea, but she's like, God's telling me something, and I'm going to be obedient. I'm like, okay, what's going on? She's like, God is telling me to close this business and that I don't need it anymore. In my mind, we just barely went through the Christmas and wasn't going to survive without her funds, right? And so she's like, does that sound crazy to you? I'm like, yeah. That sounds really crazy, I'm not going to tell you not to do what God's telling you to do, but you better think twice because this does not make sense in my head. That's money. That's cash flow that held us afloat through the winter. But I'm like, okay, I'm not one to say, especially to my wife who's full of wisdom, that God didn't tell you that. So if God told you that, maybe you better consult somebody else before you go and jump on it. As she did, she talked to our pastors, and they're like, some leadership that she trusted, and they're like, yeah, that's crazy, but if that's what God's telling you to do, and so there I am, I'm panicked. I'm like, okay, how's this gonna work? So eventually, it's the summertime, her lease comes up, doesn't renew. I'm like, all right, she followed through with it. That's awesome. That means big things are gonna happen because this has to be supported somehow, right? I think the important part there was that she was obedient even though she didn't understand why. She was there while we were struggling through the last winter time. She knew what was going to happen again, possibly happen again, but she was obedient. And it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to her, but if God was telling her to do that, then she was obedient. And so, lo and behold, fall's coming around again. Here we are, we're on this cycle right now. And the work starts slowing down. I see a little bit of a light, a glimmer of hope where I've got all this equipment. I've got a dozer, I've got a skid steer, I've got a dump trailer, I've got flatbed trailers, I got my truck. And all of a sudden, all these things that I had lining up for the wintertime, I'm like, okay, God, I see you moving. They just start falling off. And it's November, December, no work. I'm to the point I got $0 in there. I got rid of the dozer. I got rid of the skid steer. I got rid of, all the extra things. And we're in this point right now. Things are starting to fall behind. The house is starting to get behind on bills. Now the truck is starting to get behind. And it's February now. Somehow we make it through the wintertime. But now it's February. And I've got work in the horizon again. I'm like, okay, good. Here we go again. But this time it's going to be bigger. I'm going to do better next wintertime. So it's February. It's maybe March. And I've got this contract, a big job. I'm not even going to say numbers. But it was going to catch up all the things that I fell behind. And it's going to put me right back where I was. But I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that cycle all the way over again. So it's a rainy night. It was a rainy night, and the trees are out there popping. It's wind's blowing, and I'm sleeping good, right? Because I don't know how many of y'all sleep better when it's rainy at night, right? I'll wake up, and I'll hear the lightning or the thunder, and I see the rain coming down, and I'm like, I dig deeper into that blanket, It's beautiful. I sleep better like that. But then we wake up in the morning, and we open the curtains or open the blinds, and my truck is gone. It's gone. And all of a sudden, my day, my week, my month just comes crashing down. And I'm like, all right, well, time to deal with this. It could either be repoed or it got stolen. So it's time to make that phone call. So I call up Union County Deputy's office. They're like, hey, this is so-and-so from the deputy office. And I got my fingers crossed. It's either stolen or it's repoed. And I'm hoping for one of them, even though they're both terrible things. But the lady's like, yep, that got reported as repoed. and I sunk, man. How many of y'all have ever had something stolen from you? You ever got your car broken into, your house broken into, maybe one of your friends stole something from you? How does that make you feel? Bad. You feel violated. This person just took advantage of you. I would rather, at that moment, have felt violated than let my pride get hurt. Because knowing that it was repossessed, and now people in the county know I just had my truck repossessed, there goes my pride. If that don't speak the power of pride and why we can't have it in us, I don't know what does. To be in a position where I'd rather feel violated by another person than hurt that little bit of pride that I have. That's why God says we can't have it. It's powerful. It is a powerful, powerful thing. So, truck's repoed. Now I know what I have to do. I got to scrounge up some money somehow, get it back, but I know I got this job on the horizon. But fortunately, I know a guy. He's a man. And it happens to be Aaron's brother-in-law, who is totally led by the Spirit. He doesn't take credit for anything. God's using him to do massive, just incredible changes over there in North Carolina right now. And I know this guy, and I know he's got money. So I call him up. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm in a situation. And I tell him, like, look, I got this job. I'm willing to send him pictures. And I'm like, hey, man, I need like $4,000, like today. I'll drive 2 hours and come get it so I can get my truck out. But I'm like, I need this like today. And he knows my whole situation. And he starts crying on the phone. And I'm like, oh no, he doesn't have it. And he feels bad because he's going to have to tell me he doesn't have it. And so what's going through my mind is, well, plan B. But in his tears, I can hear him crying. I can hear him speaking at the same time. He's like, well, yeah, I got the 4,000. He's like, I got whatever you need. If you need more than that, just let me know and pay back whenever you can. But he's like, also, I got this truck. He's like, and God's been telling me over the last 2 weeks that it's not my truck no more. And he goes, this last weekend, what was just like the day before that, he's like, it was such a strong impression that I cleaned that truck out and it's ready. And I know what this truck is. It's not another half-ton truck. It's a workhorse. It's exactly what I need. It's got the diesel engine. It's heavy duty. And so it all came together in my mind. I saw God. His plan versus my plan. Me thinking I need that newer, bigger, better truck. But God said, no, this is what you need. Not what you thought. This is what you need. And I saw it right there. So naturally I said, yeah. When I seen God's plan come into alignment with my life, and I said, I don't want the money. Forget that brand new fancy truck. I was like, that's the truck that God has for me. If he's telling you to give it, then I will receive it. I think that was a powerful thing to me because I've always been taught that to receive something, you have to work for it. To have that new computer, that new thing, you had to do something to earn that. And that's your pride too. Like, hey, I earned that thing. That's mine. But this was a gift from God, and y'all know how God works. So he gave me this. I couldn't have any pride in it. Matter of fact, I was just broken inside. I was so blessed by him. And him being obedient to God, even though it was painful probably just a little bit, but maybe not that bad, but he was obedient to God, and he gave up that truck. And his obedience overwhelmed me with gratitude. And gratitude filled my life. You're in the splash zones, Pastor. Gratitude filled my life. And this is not working how it was supposed to. This was supposed to be clear water here, guys. But because in the experiment at the house, all the oil came out and it dumped out, and there was nothing but clear water in there. But his obedience instilled so much gratitude in me that there was no room left for pride. The thing about pride and gratitude is that pride points to self. Pride always points to self. Look at what I did. Look at what I earned. Look at the things that I'm doing. And that's why that can't be in God's kingdom. But gratitude points to God. It says, look what I'm doing in your life. Guys, look what God has done for me. And that's the outlook that my brother-in-law had. He said, when he gave me that truck, he said, that's not me, that's God. He didn't want credit for it. And that's exactly how God wants us. But there's a very important part of that. How do we get a heart of gratitude? Make sure I don't drink the wrong one. We have to be obedient. Because when we're obedient, we're blessed with gratitude because we can help. When others are obedient, it opens the doors to miracles. That truck was a miracle in my life, and watching God work that way was a miracle in my life. But it don't have to be big things like that. It don't have to be a vehicle. It don't have to be a house. Do you know there's people that get houses given to them through God? But it could be something simple. I was talking to one of our brothers here just the other day, and he was in a bad situation for a minute. Well, maybe not all that bad, but he was feeling lonely. And he said, God, I need a hug. I need a hug. Now, God didn't manifest in his room that morning. Although he can. He did that for me. But God didn't manifest in his room that morning. He sent another brother. And this other brother was obedient. He said, hey, bro, God's impressing on me. And he's telling me I need to give you a hug. This was a miracle. It don't have to be a big financial thing, but God spoke. He cried out to God. God spoke to this brother and blessed this person. It was a miracle in his life when he felt so alone, when he felt that God wasn't there listening. Something so simple as a hug. That's why our obedience in the little mundane, the little things, even though you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, our obedience opens the doors to other people's miracles that we don't even know about. James 4:6 says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. So I'm going to ask the worship team come up here because we're going to button up here pretty soon. But I believe that God's working in the lives of every single person in this room. Every single person watching on TV. You're here for a reason. God has a purpose for your life. And he's calling you to do something. He might not be asking you to give a house. He might not ask you to give a car or a tangible thing. But he might be asking you to make that phone call. Who's on the other side of that phone? But we don't know until we step into our obedience, and then we're blessed. But I want y'all to think into it a little bit. What is God calling you to do? What is he asking you to do? Because I believe he's speaking to every single person in this room right now. What gets in the way? What gets in the way of our obedience? Because it's possible for us to cover up to where we can't receive these blessings. How's that happen? We say no. We don't make that move. We don't go pray for that person. We don't buy that guy a turkey. But God wants to bless you, and the key is in obedience. So if y'all will, go ahead and stand with me. We'll go ahead and pray. As the team sets up, the worship team sets